as we welcome Robert and Scott to the stage.
Scott, Robert.
Hello.
Scott. This one's Scott. This one's Robert.
Hello.
Pleasure to have you guys with us tonight. Thank you for your willingness to participate. Scott, I want to start with you. Robertson Heating Supply, family business. Imagine you've been doing this for a while, so tell us a little bit about your business.
All right. Well, you heard a little bit during Raymond's introduction here, so he did a pretty good job making that business sound pretty decent. So appreciate that. Yeah, it's a family business. Started 85 years ago by my grandfather, and he gets a lot of the credit. Took all the initial chances, put his money on the line, and I got to step in later in his life and just keep it going. And my job was to keep that going and not screw it up, and keep the company moving forward. So I started when I was 15 years old. Something that was awesome is, I had an opportunity. When you've got the same last name as the owner, they call that opportunity. But I still had to earn it. And he was a smart man. He's a tough man. And, so I started in the warehouse, did everything in the warehouse, all the lifting and the physical work, ran forklifts, which was one of the funnest rides you can have outside of Cedar Point. Eventually got up on the counter where I got to meet the customers and hear the lingo of our products. And then it really wasn't until 1984 when I graduated from college that I actually got into the office. So, something's awesome is I did every job down there except drive the semi. They spotted me driving the forklift, and they asked me not to drive anything bigger than that. So it's been awesome. And something special for me and for my wife Cheryl is we've had our son do the same thing then many years later in the fourth generation, and I think it helps capture the respect of the fellow workers when they know that you've done it all and you still know what's going on. So great company for me and hopefully a good company in Alliance.
Now, as a business leader, is this working? Now it is. As a business leader, you're in what you've compared in our class as a fraternity, a brotherhood of businessmen. And so, Scott, from your experience and from what you've seen from your peers, what's been the greatest challenge that you have to, number one, get a great workforce, and then secondly, to be able to keep it?
Yeah, so I'm, as Raymond indicated, I'm involved in some of the associations in Alliance, the business associations, and so I have an opportunity to talk to different owners, some of which are here in front of us tonight. And, the biggest problem that most employers have today and have had for the last couple of years is literally finding good employees. And good, somewhat defined as people that want to work, that'll show up to work every day, and can do a good job for it. There's companies in Alliance that they've got plenty of work. They could do more work. They could sell more product, make more money, but what's holding them back is they can't find the employees to fill those shifts, to work those extra machines. And so when I teach at Men's Challenge in both Alliance and Canton, I try to let the men know that there's jobs out there. Okay, they're out there. You got to go. You got to want it. And if you get hired, it's not a bonus if you show up to work 15 consecutive days on time. That's not a bonus. We're not going to give you a balloon, an Olympic Day ribbon. Basically, you're going to keep your job. And so I try to emphasize that to the young men that just come to work on time. If you were hired to work 7:30 to 4:30, that's what is expected. Okay, and you do that. You have a good attitude, a good work ethic. You get along with fellow workers. You're going to have a long career. Okay, it's basic blocking and tackling that the owners are looking for. And there's lots of opportunities.
So Men's Challenge started in your hometown, Alliance, Ohio, 2012. And if I recall correctly, a couple of the early banquets were actually in your building, your nationwide headquarters. So how is it that that you got associated with Men's Challenge?
Yeah, I remember the day. The two guys are here, Ray Hall and my minister Ed Carter. They talked to me after a church service at Marlboro Christian, and they explained this Men's Challenge. It was relatively new, and they explained it to me, and it made an impression upon me that it sounded like a great program, sounded like a way to serve other people and help out. I've got a passion for teaching people about how to properly fill out an application and how to do a job interview. That's passionate to me. Ed Carter's never asked me to sing in the choir.
And everybody said?
I sing 2 songs, Friends in Low Places and God Bless the USA. And I do them remarkable. So this was an opportunity to serve, the Lord, serve the church, and serve people. And it was something that I felt I could do. And 60 years later, it feels pretty good.
That's awesome. Now, we've already heard you teach both the ACE and interview, or you've taught ACE and interview class, and then also the applications class. And as Raymond had expressed, just having the insight of a business owner, a business leader, to be sharing with our guys, I don't think sometimes they realize the benefit that they're getting, university level course, basically, at no cost. And speaking of that, Scott, you always say to the guys, listen, I get paid same whether you take my advice or whether you don't take my advice. So how's the pay?
Still waiting for that first check. All right, it's accumulated a lot of money. So, no, I do make that point. I'm going to give it all I got for an hour and 15 minutes on a Tuesday night if it's Alliance, or a Wednesday morning if it's in Canton. Most of the things I do that I like doing, it comes pretty much from the heart, so it's fairly easy to do. You got guys out there that you can just see they're not listening to you, they're not engaged, they're sitting there because they have to sit there. And then you got a group of people that are somewhere in the middle that seem like they're engaged. And then you got some people in the audience that, and Robert was one of them back in May of last year, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But you can just look around and you can see the people that are really engaged and the people that really want to be there, need to be there, and want to improve. And they're soaking it up like a sponge. And that's the people that make you keep coming back.
And that answers really the next question I had for you, because I don't think you probably sit around twiddling your thumbs all day, that you're a very busy man. And the question is, why do you do this? But it sounded like you answered that.
Yeah, it's just an opportunity to serve, opportunity to serve the Lord, opportunity to help people in need. I was fortunate to be born into a family that, in a generation, already had things going pretty well. My grandfather had things going remarkably well by the time I stepped in. So I've had a good life, probably easier life than most people. So it's pretty rewarding when you can help people that are far from that, people that don't have it all going on, haven't had the best of life, got knocked down about 3 levels. And one of the things we talk about in the class I teach, is that getting a full-time paying job is a key part of getting your life back on schedule. And the class I teach, and the way I teach it, or attempt to teach it, I feel gives them a better chance, that they're going to be able to be selected for an interview. And I stress to the guys during the talk, I say, hey, how many of you guys know me? And how many do I know you? And And out of 40 guys, normally about 39 or so don't know me, and I don't know them. And so what I try to stress to them is this piece of paper that we call an application is the only way I'm going to get to know you. That's it. What you write on that paper, how you write it, what you don't say on that paper, how you spell every word, that's all I'm going to know, because I don't know what you look like. I know nothing else about you besides that piece of paper. And so when we get done with the class, I think the guys, for the most part, have gone from a race technique, how fast you can fill one out, and how many you can fill out and throw like frisbees into different buildings, to slowing down and fill it out with thought and with time. You only need one job, okay? You only need one job, so let's do it right. Let's present yourself the best way you can, and that's what I try to do in an hour and 15 minutes.
Now, this other guy at the table with us, I think you know him. He's a Men's Challenge alumni. And Robert, now your introduction to Men's Challenge was a different path than Scott's.
Yes, it was. It started off back in January 13, 2015. I was arrested with possession of pain medication, where I eventually lost custody of my daughters and got a 4-year prison sentence. Before they shipped me out, I contacted the jail chaplain, a gentleman named Pastor Phil Kleinsfelter. He's here tonight. And he instructed me to start off with reading the book of Proverbs, each day reading one chapter. And that's pretty much how I started that with, and also prayer and meditation. Over the next 3.5 years, I did that along with all the programs in the prison system, college with honors, and eventually to another prison where I was able to validate my CDL. Then they sent me to the halfway house, April 4th, 2018, a year ago today, where the case manager introduced me to Men's Challenge, so that's how I got a word of what this was about.
Do you remember what your thought process was while you were incarcerated, and maybe those of others there as well, as far as the challenges that you would face once you got out?
To give somebody give us a second chance, with a felony on your record, it's, you look at things differently. That was probably the biggest thing, is maybe an employer giving us a second chance.
Okay. So your first time coming into Men's Challenge, what were your initial impressions?
I was amazed at the amount of jobs on the billboard when I first walked in. That I was happy to see that. However, there wasn't anything with the CDL job. So I kind of said, oh, well, I'll just look at something else.
Okay. And as you continued on in Men's Challenge, what did you find as you went along?
Well, actually, I remember looking around and seeing they had job training for a forklift operator. So I thought I'd be able to, take that, because driving a truck, loading, unloading, I thought it would be beneficial on my resume. So I went ahead and signed up and completed that class.
Did that cost you anything?
No. I didn't have any money anyways. I was still locked up.
And that's one of the things our guys that we share with them is that it doesn't cost them anything. Anything they do in our program has no cost to them. But it does cost. And so, for Nick to be here tonight, for Robert to be here tonight, Carlos here tonight, they get to see in an event like this what's going on behind the scenes, what's making it possible, the generosity of men and women like you who love them, who care about them, who believe in you. Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing. So, Scott, I think it was back in April last year, you sent me an email. And do you remember that email and what you asked me?
Yeah, I wanted to solicit your help to see if you had a man or some group of men that might be able to drive one of our trucks and were CDL licensed. We had hired a gentleman from Men's Challenge about 3.5 years earlier, and he's still with us today, and he's been a good man. CDL drivers aren't the easiest people, to find. We're not an over-the-road company, so we don't pay, over-the-road wages because you're not spending nights in Maine and New Hampshire and South Dakota. You're home in Alliance every night, so we got to sell that. That's why we pay like $17 cheaper. So, they're not a plenty, and so we reached out to a few people, and Rex was one of them to see if he knew of people in the program that he could refer to me.
I'm going to be honest with you, okay? I got that email, and I just rolled my eyes, and I thought, yeah, right. These are not typically the individuals who come through Men's Challenge. And that's not to disparage anyone, but most of the individuals who come through Men's Challenge do not have a valid driver's license. It's the truth. And so when Scott asked me that, I thought, sure, I'll keep my eyes open. A couple of weeks passed after you emailed me, and you were going to be teaching in Canton that day. So, Robert, you and I are in class that day. Class hasn't started yet. Actually, Scott hasn't even come in yet. What did you ask me?
I remember that very clearly. I walked in and told you I'm just getting ready to leave the halfway house. I have a spotless CDL. I'd love to have a local driving job so I can get back into my daughter's lives.
So I'm glad I could arrange all of that. You see, there are things that only God can do. And when he does, you know it's him. There's not a shadow of a doubt. It's not coincidence. It's providence. And so, Scott, what happened after class? You got done teaching.
Yeah, so as I mentioned early on, as I looked out to the crowd, and there was, there's probably 35, 40 guys in the audience that I was teaching that day, and Robert was sitting in the back to the right-hand side, and we made had some eye contact, different points in the talk, and I could just tell that he was very engaged and he was very interested in what I had to say, and that day we talked about our company, who doesn't have a lot of job openings. We don't have a lot of hires that we do in a year. But CDL drivers and night shift workers tend to be the two jobs that we do have that we're adding all the time. So I mentioned that. I mentioned CDL, and I could just tell that Robert was interested. But, I kept going with the class, and the class is over. And normally on Wednesday mornings, about 11:30, I need to get the heck out of there and come back to the big city of Alliance and head to our Rotary Club meeting and get lunch. So I'm, Guy Hall knows when I'm done with an event, I'm in a full sprint, football games or otherwise. So I'm like making a beeline to the exit door and into the parking lot. And Robert literally chased me down in the parking lot, and I'm quick. But he was determined, and he did. He got me, and I'll never forget it. You guys can tell that he's a pretty good guy. And in about 6 minutes in the parking lot, he said a lot of words. But basically, it was quickly that he, got involved in some pain medications and really, really messed up. He has served time. He's out now. He took college courses, okay, and he got a CDL. And I'm thinking, that's a lot of accomplishments for a guy in prison, right? So one of the things that I teach during the class, because it's on our application, it's probably on many people's applications, is we ask a question on our app that, have you ever been convicted of a felony in the last 7 years? And, I tell the guys when I'm teaching, because some of them have, I say, hey, if you check the box yes, you better explain yourself really, really, really well. And we'll give you a couple lines, but if you need more time, more space, you better attach a paragraph or two, because your job is to convince the reader that you messed up in the past, you've learned from it, and it's not going to happen again, and you're a better person because of what happened. And that's what I try to teach the guys when I talk to them. And this guy here, in 6 minutes in a parking lot, he did an awesome job convincing me that he messed up, he served time, he learned from it, and he's ready for a new path. So I wrote on his application, so I make sure when it came in that we'd know it was him. So I wrote on it, my name. I put attention Kevin Duro, who does most of the hiring in our distribution center. And I said, Robert, get on down there and get this thing dropped off, okay? And we'll commit to you an interview. We'll give you a shot. And he came in within days. I got dropped off, I think, by a starter bus at like 5:45 in the morning, because that's when the starter drops people off at Alliance. He hung outside till about 6:20 when the first worker got there. And, he interviewed and, did an awesome job telling his story to Kevin in a lengthier session. I'm happy to say we hired him, and he's been awesome. And when you hire people like that, they're going to work harder for you than anybody else.
That's right.
Because they're going to appreciate that job more than anybody that didn't go through that.
Right.
And that's what we found with both of the men that we've hired at Men's Challenge.
Robert, I'm laughing because you gave a great description from nature of that morning. Would you care to share with these guys?
I actually, after he did his presentation, I kind of stalked him like he was a gazelle and I was a cheetah. I went after him. He wasn't getting away. No way.
He was watching every move that Scott made, and he'd walk behind somebody and.
My head.
Scott, since that time, whenever you teach in Canton, you share that story with our participants. In fact, every time you do it, you point to the very chair that Robert was sitting in. Why do you offer that story to the other guys?
Yeah, I think it's, the guys need to feel like there's a chance. We're going to talk to them, they're going to listen, but they got to feel like there's a legitimate chance for them, because many of them have done some pretty bad stuff, and there's probably many employers that wouldn't hire them. And so by sharing a real life testimony, especially when I go to Canton, I can talk about Robert because he came out of the Canton program. When I go to Alliance on Tuesday nights, I can talk about Bill. He came out of that program. And so really it's the best testimony you got that, hey, I'm not kidding with you. You can do it. People like me will hire people like you, but you got to convince us that you're ready and that you can be on a path and you're going to be a great person. And I imagine that gives them hope, because again, that job's a pretty critical part of getting back on track.
Robert, I just want you to know that your story continues to give hope to guys continually. You've been out now for a while for Men's Challenge, but your story continues on to give hope to others. Now, I know that getting a job was a major portion of seeing God's giving you a hope and a future and prospering you. But I know there's more that's taken place in your life, too, that God's been doing. And would you take a few moments just to share what God's been doing in your life?
Well, having the great job and the support from Robinsons has been one blessing. My landlord has done tremendous for me. I got a place a half mile from my daughter's. I have my brother David, Pastor Phil, and Pastor Steve, and my girlfriend Susan that are here tonight for support. And most recently, it's the big one is February 25th, just 5 weeks ago. The courts awarded me full visitations with my daughters, and I get them every Wednesday. I get them every Wednesday and every other weekend, and all holidays now. So that's been a very big blessing in my life.
So Scott, we have business professionals here tonight. You teach at Men's Challenge. You've hired for Men's Challenge. You're a financial partner with Men's Challenge. What would you say to your colleagues when it comes to supporting the work of Men's Challenge?
Well, I think you've heard it pretty much all night from our first two guys that spoke, and you know, the young ladies that sang, and certainly our you know, talk with you tonight. It's an awesome program. It's an awesome program that's taken men that need a lot of help. They're at a pretty low level on the totem pole, and they need help. And so, you know, I come home, I tell my wife on Tuesday nights, anyhow, when I do the evening class, I feel awesome. I come home, I feel like I did some good stuff. You know, I give it everything I got. I don't hold back. I don't sugarcoat stuff. I think Gil knows that. I tell them what they need to hear. I tell them some hard truths. And when I get in the car, I feel awesome. I feel like I've done some good stuff. I've helped some guys, or at least I've attempted to help guys, right? That's all I can do. They got to want. They got to want to learn what I'm saying. So for all the guys and ladies in the crowd, I just tell you, this is a darn good cause. There's a lot of good causes out there, but this is a darn good one when you take men that are in need, in big need. You know, we need them. We need them in our society. We need them to get up and get out and get to work and, you know, start families and be good for society. And so it takes either time, mentoring, or money to do it. And I'd tell everybody in the crowd to figure out what 2 out of 3 you're going to sign up for.
Well said. That paycheck is coming in the mail to you. Robert, there are individuals here who know people who are at their lowest, you know, who've hit rock bottom, people who are without hope. One of the things we tell our guys, make sure to turn your cell phones off when you're in class.
This is our first pledge coming in.
1,000 what? Awesome. Thank you. Rich, don't yell at me, please. But there are people who've hit rock bottom, and we know people like that. They've lost their jobs, they've lost their families. What would you say to them?
I would start off with the book of Proverbs, or it sums it up, always do the right thing, pray and meditate, be prepared for that job, and don't give up, never give up on yourself.
Our theme tonight for this banquet has been Jeremiah 29:11, that God has plans for us, to prosper us, not to harm us, to give us a hope and a future. God has plans for businessmen and businesswomen, for employers. He has plans for employees and those who are currently unemployed. And that begins with surrendering to Him and putting Him first. And then we can trust, as you've well seen, God will prosper you. He will. But you first must surrender to Him. So with that, would you please thank Robert and Scott for their time tonight?